Good, how are you?
Good. We have a lot planned for today within this hour. So we'll go ahead and get started. So, hello, all, once again. My name is Faith Nixon. And if you want to, feel free to put your name, major, whatever in the chat so we can know a little bit more about you before we start. But welcome to the Red Table Talk with Treasure and Sword, Tishaura Jones. Before we get started, it's important to recognize that the Alpha Omega Citywide chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated does not endorse any candidates. However, we are super excited to have a candid conversation about the importance of local elections and collegiate involvement. So let's get started. We'll begin with a speech from Sora Jones, and then we'll follow it up with questions. So we had a poll on our Instagram yesterday requesting questions. So we have some of those questions, and then we have some questions from our chapter. So feel free to get started whenever you're ready.
Yes. So, good afternoon, sorors. You all look so beautiful, and I couldn't think of a better way to have one of my last days of this campaign than with doing a red table talk with my sorors. So, so happy to see all of you today. I am Tishaura Jones again. I'm currently the treasurer of the city of St. Louis. I've been treasurer for the last 8 years. Before that, I was in the Missouri State House as a representative for 4 years. And before that, I was a committee woman. So I've been in politics almost 20 years now, and really enjoy what I do. I feel like this is my calling. When they say people are called to the ministry or called to a certain industry or called to a certain job, I feel like this is the work that I was called to do, because local politics matter, and unfortunately local politics are the races that get the least amount of attention. They are the races with the lowest turnout. They're also the races with the lowest media coverage. And local elections matter more than elections 900 miles away. Now, we will put an asterisk there and talk about, obviously the presidential election really mattered this last cycle, because most of us have received our stimmies. But local elections matter because now, as after the first part of the stimulus bill has been implemented, the second part is coming, and that means over $500 million is on its way in federal money on its way to our city, and we need a mayor with an eye towards equity who's going to disperse these funds in an equitable manner and who has the experience to move quickly. And this is where, again, local elections matter, because the primary only had 22% turnout, and hopefully we'll have a little more turnout in the election on Tuesday. But if we take a step back and look at 2017, we had about 28% turnout, and we had 7 candidates, and I lost by 888 votes. And we can all figure out how to put together 888 people, or a little over 1,000 people. But that's how much local elections matter, because you can lose by or win by more than 2%. So we changed our election system. We no longer have partisan primaries. We have what's called approval voting. So you can vote for as many candidates as you approve of in the primary, which was March 2nd. And I received 57% approval. And the top 2 then go to a runoff, in which I am currently in. And I've the runoff has been the approval voting was supposed to take out negative campaigning, and have people campaign totally on the issues, but we see that has not happened in this second round, as my opponent has decided to go negative. But like our dear Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high, right? And if you've seen any of the recent debates, when she tries to take jabs at me and the camera all of a sudden pans to me to see like what my reaction is, I just stand there cool, calm, collected, and grinning. So I'm channeling my inner Kamala Harris at that moment, right? I'm channeling like, okay, you can take jabs, but all right, I'm gonna write a few notes and I'm gonna be ready to come back when it's my turn to talk again. I really wish we didn't have to sink that low, but it is what it is. And then also we look at kind of the roots of white supremacy that are really in this race, and and its rear and its ugly head. If any of you read the local newspaper, they came out with their endorsement yesterday and said that, well, Treasurer Jones has done all these good things, but she needs to improve on her interpersonal skills. But also said that the white candidate was very passionate, right, and a fighter. But those qualities that are usually awarded and revered in white candidates are somehow criticized in Black candidates. So I said all this to say, because I want you all to be aware of all of these sort of microaggressions, macroaggressions as you move through your careers and whatever you decide to do, because I know that number one, you pledge Delta. That means that you don't take any, Deltas are leaders. And so, I know that you're all going to be leaders in your field, and I want you to be totally aware of what you're going to be coming up against. So I have talked enough, and I want to hear all of your questions so we can have a good red table talk, and really get to the meat of it. And again, no question is off limits. But I see that we're recording on YouTube, so maybe some things may be off limits. We'll see. So Faith, okay. Go for Imani. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Tishaura Jones. Some of the questions we got from social media were about like what change you would like to see in St. Louis and what impact you hope to have on the St. Louis community. So we can start there.
Yeah, so just like investment in certain areas has been intentional, disinvestment in other areas has been intentional. And I know that you've seen that as you drive around our beautiful city. And I want to change that. I want to make intentional investments in areas that have not seen investment in decades, because we should not be surprised, because that's where most of our bad outcomes are. The crime, the low health outcomes, the poverty. And so we need to change that trajectory and make market investments in people in order to help them become economically mobile. So that means more investments in affordable and mixed income housing. That means more investments in job training and workforce development, and bringing our local companies to the table to see how we can get people into good paying jobs to help them take care of themselves and take care of their families. That means infrastructure investments. That means I want to expand public Wi-Fi into public spaces so we can have Wi-Fi wherever you live across this city. And just, and dare I say, make North City, bring North City back. I grew up in Wells Goodfellow, Hamilton Heights, and Walnut Park neighborhoods. And when I drive around those neighborhoods now, I'm just totally sad at what they've become. My grandfather's house that was on Julian is no longer there. When I used to walk up and down West Florissant and go into the Walnut Park Library, now a lot of those houses are boarded up and vacant. So what can we do to repopulate North St. Louis and repopulate our city? Because we have been on a steady population decline since the turn of the last century.
Thank you for that. And another question that we have for you is, how did your Delta experience influence you throughout your political career?
That's a great question. So I pledged in 1999, St. Louis Metro alumni, and I will be celebrating 21 years in Delta on April 30th. and how that has affected me, just having a network of strong women to rely on was is priceless. And then also when I go back to sorority meetings, I can't wait till we can have in-person sorority meetings again. Because sometimes a sister needs a hug, right? And just being able, I can't go to sorority meetings a lot, but being able to go to events and see sorors that I haven't seen in a long time, it's just all love, no matter how long you've been away, right? Delta is one of those things. It's like Delta's like an old friend, that you haven't talked to in months or years, and when you come back, it's still all love. And so a lot of times, Black women need that space to reconnect, to re-energize themselves, and Delta provides that for me.
Thank you so much. And another question we have ready is, how do you see collegiates getting involved in local change?
Yes, so I'm so excited and always uh, inspired by collegiate sorors, because you have your fingers on the pulse of what's going on our university campuses, and also have access to energize young people to let them know what their rights are and how to get involved. So I see our collegiate chapters really working with other students on campus to let them know that elections are coming up, and having these sorts of discussions about how local elections affect their day-to-day lives more than national elections. Really getting information out, because a lot of times, you have a lot of information coming at you through different mediums. And I see collegiate chapters as that place to cut through all of the noise and give and really tell the truth. So, engage and inspire everyone to get out and vote, because we know that a lot of times when you see elected officials, especially Black elected officials, 9 times out of 10, they're part of the Divine Nine. So this is the training ground for a lot of us to look at careers in politics later on in life.
All right, thank you so much for that. And one of the last questions we have is, how do you situate social justice in local politics?
That's a great question. Social justice in local politics, I think the way that I approach it is, well, number one, my definition of social justice is is probably more in tune with my definition of racial equity, right? Making sure that those who have, or we're paying attention to those who have not been a part of the process for generations, for decades. And achieving social justice, to me, is also achieving racial equity, because a lot of the things that you're fighting for in racial equity, I think, are also in tune with things with social justice, like criminal justice reform, reducing the racial wealth gap, reducing the income gap, our health disparities, all of the social determinants of health. So I approach it from that viewpoint or that lens. And as mayor, one of the things I want to do is appoint not a diverse cabinet, but I'm sorry, I'm tired. A deputy mayor of racial equity and community engagement, to look at every policy, every dollar spent, every contract through a racial equity lens, and make sure that, again, that we are paying attention to those who have been marginalized and left out of a government for far too long.
Okay, thank you. And last question we have ready is, what challenges come with implementing sustainable change in a city?
Yeah, so we're not patient in local government. We do not have patience. We want to see change absolutely now. So one of the things that I implemented was the Office of Financial Empowerment in City Hall, and we help people make better choices with their money. We help them improve their credit scores, and we do all of this for free, by the way. And you and I both know that if you have bad credit, it's not going to get good overnight. It's going to take time. You got to, pay down debt um, or pay down credit cards or establish payment history in order to improve your credit. And so when people say that it's not working, they just mean it's not working fast enough. And so I have a hard time getting people or getting companies to invest in our financial empowerment initiatives because the outcomes they happen over time. One of the programs that I'm most passionate about that will definitely take time is the College Kids Children's Savings Account program, which gives a college savings account to every kindergarten student in a public school in the city of St. Louis. And we load it with the first $50, and we add to it when they or their families do good things like match savings, parents' participation in financial education courses, and good attendance. And we use the child as an entry point to the family. But the outcomes, as you and I both know, it takes at least 13 to 16 years to see outcomes from investing in children early and building a savings account for them or savings account program. We won't see any sort of recordable outcomes until our kids start to graduate, right? Will they go to college? Will they choose some sort of post-secondary education? Because we know that 2/3 of all jobs now require some form of post-secondary education. And they can use these funds for a 2 or 4 year college, vocational or technical school, even costs associated with a union apprenticeship. And research shows that children with less than $500 saved are 3 times more likely to go to college and 4 times more likely to complete college. So our first investment was in 2015. We won't see any outcomes from that investment until the year 2035, right? So we have to be patient and continue these programs to make sure that they are doing the outcomes. Now, some of the outcomes we do see are anecdotal. We do see parents taking our financial empowerment classes, improving their credit scores, buying their first homes. But those are just kind of one-offs, right? But in my opinion, if I have helped one person, the program is working, right? So we just don't have patience in local government.
Okay, so that is the end of the questions that we had pre-written or sent in. I do have one quick question for you before I open it up to the rest of my sorors or our audience members that are not sorors. My question would be about what is your vision for environmental sustainability or climate action in the city?
Yes, that's a great question. So the city has already passed an ordinance on sustainability and climate action. We're supposed to be at a certain goal by the year 2035, and so I truly support that goal. Some of the things that I've tried to do as treasurer and wanted to do, but just I ran out of time, was putting solar panels on the tops of all of our garages in order to get us off the grid or reduce our carbon footprint. I still think that that's achievable as mayor. So I'm not saying that I can't do it. I'll just have to work with whoever's the next treasurer to do so. If you see the parking meters that we put out on the streets, they all have solar panels, so they don't always use the battery. So they use a combination of solar power and a backup battery, obviously when it's dark. And we have a long way to go because there's a lot of environmental racism that's happened in this city with lead poisoning and by sheer location of homes to polluted areas or areas that emit pollutants in the air, and we have a long way to go to abate that, or even we still have buildings with asbestos still in them. I'm pretty sure City Hall has a bunch of it. Have you seen that building lately? It's old. So we have a long way to go, but that is something that is important to me to try to achieve those goals in that stated report.
Okay, thank you so much, Treasurer and Sora Jones. I know we only have a few minutes of your time left. Really quickly, I'd like to open it up, see if anyone has any questions to ask, and then if not, I will pass it back to Faith.
Oh, come on, I know somebody's got a question.
I have one. So I was just like doing some research on like what you should ask people that are running for local office. And one of the questions was, if you received a grant to use for the city in any way that you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
This is a wonderful question. I already have an answer. I would use, if I received a grant for the city, I would use it to do basic income. Or universal basic income. And if you don't know what universal basic income is, it gives people an income floor. Basically, it gives people like, I think there's a current pilot going on in Stockton, California that gives people $500 a month, no restrictions. And so I would do a basic income. Well, not a pilot. I hope that this grant would last me years and years and years, and we can just do basic income every year for our most vulnerable. Because studies show that when you give people extra money, they use it to live. They don't, there's a myth out there that people, if they had, an income floor, that they would be lazy. No, the research is showing that people have used it to pay down debt, to stop working a second job, to invest and save some for the future, and to also get a better job, and also to take care of themselves. During this pandemic, there was a woman in this particular pilot program in Stockton, California. She caught COVID. And had it not been for the basic income pilot that she was in, she would have still had to go to work or she would have lost her job actually. And she would have lost all of her income, but she had this basic income coming in. And so she could afford to take a few days off. She didn't have sick time at her employer. So she was able to survive while she was staying at home, caring for herself while she had COVID, and then could go back to work. People use it to get a better job, and then increase their station in life. So, it dovetails right into the moment that we're in. I was watching MSNBC yesterday, and they talked about how this Sunday is the 53rd anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. And he talked about his message was changing from civil rights to silver rights right before his death. He started talking about economic freedom. And a lot of people think that that's why they killed him, because he started talking about economic freedom for African Americans, not just getting the right to vote and the right to live wherever we want. And economic freedom just totally frees your mind. You can do anything if you are economically free. And I think that's personally why I get pushed back a lot, because with the things that I do with financial empowerment, I'm trying to free our people, period. I'm trying to free their minds. I'm trying to free their bank accounts, and make sure that they can provide for themselves, provide for their children, and have generational wealth for grandchildren. So if I had a grant, basic income would be it. Jada, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. So I wanted to ask, do you have a background story or what particularly inspired you to run for this position?
Wow. So I never wanted to be a politician, but my mother's always told me, the quickest way to make God laugh is to tell him what you would never do. But I got inspired to run for mayor because I felt like I could do better than the leadership that we currently had. And I ran in 2017. It was an open seat. We had the same mayor for 16 years, and we haven't had a Black mayor in St. Louis in 20 years. Let that sink in. So probably before some of you were born. And also, it's time, and we've never had a Black woman mayor as well. And I ran because I looked at my neighborhood. I looked um, at how we have totally abandoned North St. Louis and abandoned Black people, really. And I felt like I could do better. And we cannot expect St. Louis to succeed if half of it is left to fend for itself. And that's what we currently have. And the base of my campaign is a simple belief that you should be able to succeed here, regardless of your skin color, who you love, how you worship, your zip code, or any identity you hold. And that's the kind of St. Louis I want to build. Kennedy, you're the last question. Give me a good one.
Okay. Knowing that you are running for mayor and hopefully winning, what do you see yourself in the future running for U.S. Senate or governor or anything like that?
Oh, child, statewide office. I don't know. I don't feel like God is telling me that. Like God told me definitely that I should run for mayor. Because I prayed long and hard about it. And I prayed long and hard about running the first time, and definitely prayed harder before running the second time. A couple of things happened to influence my decision. St. Louis County is executive. The former one, Steve Stinger, and I didn't really have a good working relationship. And I see a lot of our problems as regional, not just as St. Louis City. And so I wanted to make sure that whoever was in that seat, that I had a possibility of having a good working relationship with that person. And then the person who replaced him was my old friend, Sam Page. We've been friends since 2008. And so I was like, oh, yes, of course I can work with Sam. And so that was encouraging. And then just, watching my sister mayors across this country really do some really great things for their cities. And I felt compelled to try again. And then also my son is older. I'm a single mom. He's 13. He's adorable. And I just felt compelled to run again because, he kept asking me too. He's like, Mom, you're going to run again? You're going to run again? And so I don't know. But he also gave me permission to do so. Cause my son is my everything. And I didn't want to do anything that would hamper his upbringing. Right. And also, even though, he doesn't really have a say, my son's father, even though we're not together, was very, very supportive as well. And so I knew that he would have my back, my son's back, if something happened. And, but I don't know if God is telling me if statewide office is in my future. I just feel like he hasn't given me that message yet. While I have, great relationships statewide, a Black person has never broke that barrier in the state of Missouri. We try and we try and we try. And I don't know, Missouri is a lot different than Missouri. And I don't know. If we can tamp down this sort of hyper partisan culture and and the racism that exists once you get past, the Missouri River or hold on, or in outstate Missouri, if we can tamp down a lot of that hyper partisanship, that racism that exists, maybe, but I don't see that going away anytime soon. And I don't know if God has given me the strength to fight it. But I don't know. I only want to be mayor maybe 2 or 3 terms. And who knows what God has for me. I'm just gonna let him order my path.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Faith But thank you so much for giving us your time and your words.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Thank you so much, Sora Jones. Everyone, please provide her a fond farewell in the chat, or a wave or a clap in the Zoom universe. We appreciate your words, and we're going to reflect on them now. We're going to listen to some smooth jazz and reflect on how to be change makers. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I see all of you beautiful Harris Stowe folks. I used to teach at Harris Stowe. I used to teach HR in the business school at Harris Stowe. So love, love, love. And please know that there is definitely a spot at my table for Harris Stowe. I'm as an HBCU grad myself. It's important to me that we lift up and make sure that our HBCUs have everything they need to succeed. So I am forever a Hornet, an honorary Hornet. So, all righty. Well, thank you all and have a great day, and happy Good Friday. Happy Easter, everybody, for those who celebrate. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Please stay for the reflection. We're just going to briefly transition. So in the meantime, while we are transitioning, I'm going to put some music on, and we're going to take 5 minutes to just quietly reflect on this question. Okay, y'all, let me get my tech stuff together. So the question we're going to be reflecting on is, what's your plan to become a change agent? And I'm going to put it up on a PowerPoint too, so you'll be able to see it visually while you're reflecting. And I'm going to set a timer. And I'm going to take us off live on YouTube, because this is going to be a real conversation, y'all. Wait, how do I take it off live?